be raising interest rates, as the word comes out, some 25 basis points. And then the European Union, they're going to raise interest rates. The European Central Bank, they're expected to raise them either 25 or 50 basis points.
Right.
So what do you see going on in the implications of what they'll be doing?
Well, I think everybody can see what's happening with the regional banks with, 15 years of zero interest rate policy. So all these banks piled into all of these treasuries and put out mortgages, put out loans. So interest rates, current market value, right? So they come out at zero interest rates and then they go in globally. Central banks are in a major tightening where they're raising rates pretty aggressively. And what happens to the market value of those assets? These losses that are on their books. And what we're seeing is a complete breakdown of the global financial system, but we're only seeing the little bitty tip. And look at what's happening in the treasury bond market, unthinkable things on the short term, with traders betting on default coming up as early as June. And so they got us into this problem with all their wonderful money printing, because that's all they really have, right? And now we're seeing the foundations of the system that they created absolutely crumble.
It's rigged. It's rigged. It's a rigged game. In what America used to be once upon a time, we used to call the land of opportunity. 1% own 54% of all the equity markets. They're in control. 1% owns over half. You put the 10% together, they own 90%. The markets are only artificially being propped up right now. Rented homes were supposed to be the safest nook in the U.S. real estate market. It's not turning out that way. Rising interest rates are taking the air out of bubbly property values. Apartment prices are down 21% over the past year, according to the Green Street Commercial Property Price Index. You know who's the worst performing? Real estate offices. No kidding. Only said this was going to happen 3 years ago when they locked down everything and people zoomed to work, didn't commute anymore. It's our top trend, one of them for 2023, office building bust. January 2020. The markets and the economy should have crashed, but didn't happen because you mentioned the zero interest rate policy in the United States. And of course, over in Europe, they, for 8 years, negative interest rate policy.
Right.
And then, hey, stay home. Don't worry about it. Close down your business. Here's some money. Countless trillions. The number goes between 6 and 8 trillion that the government dumped in this phony money. They created a bubble, the likes of which we've never seen before. You saw the housing market, housing prices went up, 40% in 3 years?
Oh, yeah, maybe even more than that in some places.
And let's not forget, for over 2 years, the Federal Reserve and the ECB was saying, no, there's no inflation. It's only temporary. It's only transitory. So now what they're saying is the reason for inflation and the reason they keep raising interest rates are because wages are going up. And we have to slow down the economy and put more of the plantation workers of Slavelandia that are making not enough money to survive now out of work.
No country has ever retained for more than, we've held it longer than anybody else, the world reserve currency. Because essentially what that means is that you're the only country that gets to print from thin air and debt the money that you need to pay your bills. So it's like you or me having a printing press in our closet, and every time we wanted to buy something or we put it on credit and then we needed to pay that bill, we just went into the closet and printed money for it. So it's a huge advantage that we've had. I mean, this describes where we are very, very well, because we are living in the world between orders. We've heard about the New World Order, but nobody really knows exactly what that's going to look like. We don't know what the new order is going to be, but now you have a lot of countries that are vying to have more control, more say. And how do you want to be in this new world order? Do you want to be under the auspices of unelected technocrats, the Federal Reserve? He's not elected. You didn't choose whoever is running that entity, and the Federal Reserve is private. They are not federal, nor do they hold reserves. They just print money and control you. So once we get to a CBDC, if we get that far, and right now we would still have choices because we vote with our wallets. So if you buy gold and silver, that's your vote. This is my vote.
So we try to look at the whole big picture. Yes, are housing prices greatly exaggerated? Most definitely. But this is different than the crash in the 2008, 2007, 2011 and on. Because back then you didn't have to have any dough and you could buy a house. Remember the subprime mortgages?
Yeah.
Now people are buying them for cash. And then you have about 30% of all the home sales in 2021 came from the Blackstones and the big groups up there that are buying up housing because people can't afford to buy them. So, but then you look at real estate on other levels. To me, office commercial real estate is going to be in the toilet. People aren't working like they used to. Where we're in a complete global meltdown or worse to that effect.
Sure, inflation has nothing to do with all the money printing. And look at the corporate profits. The corporations completely took advantage of the inflation and pushed that higher. And let's not talk about CEO pay and all of those compensations that they're getting, what, 1,000, 3,000 times what the average worker is making. So, but that none of that is inflationary. It's just when the boots on the ground person wants to ask for more money because their cost of living has exploded.